Hello and welcome to the spring season of Dad's Do Dinner. Thank you very much for joining us. You're very welcome. I hope you've all had a nice couple of months to enjoy each other's time and that you had a good Mother's Day recently. So let's kick off. Let's have fun. I'm really excited about this season because we're going to be changing some of the dishes that we're doing and looking ahead towards getting outdoors in particular because I love spending time eating in my garden. So to kick that particular vein of thought off, today we're going to look at some quick tapas recipes. I absolutely love Spanish food, but I do find it can be quite oily. So these particular 3 quick tapas recipes are really nice, easy things we can throw in the oven and do really quickly, which we'll go through now. So as always, let's take a look at our ingredients. So we have 3 different sets of tapas that we're going to do quick and easy today. The first one will be stuffed mushrooms. I've bought these flat portobello mushrooms, but you can have little mushrooms. It really doesn't matter at all. We'll show you how we prepare those and get those ready for our tapas platter. The next thing we have is some figs. I bought these figs today. Fresh figs are even better if you can find them, but the slightly dried out figs, I got these from Chmesco. So we'll use those today because they were in stock. And then the last thing we have is some asparagus that I have already pre-cooked. So I've had these asparagus spears. I trimmed the edges off just to take the dry stalk off the end. Very, very little amount. And I've just popped those on a plate after boiling for 10 minutes just to dry off. And then we've got some Italian prosciutto ham that will finish that bit off. You may be wondering why I also have some stuffing out. All will be revealed very shortly. So the first thing we're going to look at, we'll do the asparagus first, and then we'll do the figs, and then we'll finish off with the mushrooms. Let's do that. Cool. Okay, ready to go? Excellent. So let's get the asparagus on the go. So the first thing I've made sure I've done is I've got a baking tray here. I've just put some tin foil and some fry light in there just to make sure that things don't stick. They shouldn't normally anyway, but just to encourage that doesn't happen because my wife don't like well sticky plates. Right, let's get on with this. So we're going to take our asparagus. I've decided to do 2 asparagus bundles as a pair. And then we're literally going to wrap them in bacon. You may be wondering where I'm going with this. Basically, any excuse to add meat into my diet. I'm a bit of a carnivore, but also very aware that I need as many vitamins and minerals in my diet as possible. So, let's take a piece of bacon. Now, if you have got any particular dietary requirements, like you're on Slimming World, for example, to take the sins off the bacon for that particular requirement, just chop the fat off and discard it to the side. And then you literally just use your meat to wrap the asparagus up in. So tail and all of the bacon, and we're just going to wrap these up like this. So they have a little blanket. It's like a pig in blanket, but a veggie version. And that's it. And then we pop that in there, ready to go in the oven. Next one. I'm going to try and whisk through these as quickly as possible, so I might cheat and do a couple of slices at a time. Cut the fat off. And then roll the asparagus in. For those of you who are asparagus noes and asparagus snobs, I haven't got any particularly special asparagus, but I was very blessed enough to be brought up in the northwest, in particular in a little town called Formby, which isn't so little anymore, but they're quite famous for growing Formby asparagus. Look it up. Formby asparagus is particularly special because they grow the asparagus in quite sandy terrain, so gives it a really unique flavour, really concentrated. I love asparagus. It's just such an amazing, if anybody's ever had like cream of asparagus soup or anything like that, it's just so yummy, so delicious. And asparagus you can chuck in anything like a stir fry. At most Asian food it'll suit. It's also really nice, just pan fried really quickly on a lovely juicy steak. See, I told you, meat craze. So let's get these on board. Nearly there. As you can see, I'm literally just lining them up in the pan. You can triple up if you want more chunkier bites. These are tapas is sort of traditionally a bit like buffet food or meze or similar things like that. They're just in particular specific to the region of Spain. But yeah, what I'm trying to achieve here with this particular week is that you can create lovely little nibbles really fast, and you can be really, really impressed with yourself over these. Excuse me. Right. That's my last asparagus blanket done. And they just go there. Marvellous. So I'll get rid of that rubbish. Pop that over there. Right, on to the next one. What did I say I was doing next? What did I say? Dates? No, I'm not doing dates. Ha! But that is a good tip. So, do some figs now. Very similar. We're going to wrap the figs up in a little blanket, but this time we're going to use Parma ham or prosciutto ham. Now, these dates, if you take a look down here, they've already been dried out a little bit, so I'm actually going to halve the dates to be wrapped up. If you're using fresh dates, I've said it again, if you're using fresh figs, I would encourage you to do fig quarters, but for the drier ones, then just halve them, it'll be fine. And the reason why I keep saying dates is because when I was at the shop, I've done this before where I've swapped the figs for dates instead. That is quite luxurious. For anybody who's tried dates before, it's like eating solid honey. Really, really yummy, but quite rich. So if you want to use medjool dates instead of figs, please go for it. I think it would be an amazing change and definitely a nice option. So I'm just going to show you now what I'm going to do with these. The only thing with these Parma ham packets is they come with like tons and tons of packaging. Anyway, there we go. So take a slice, take a piece of fig and roll the fig up into a nice little ball and pop it in the same tray. Take the next piece of prosciutto and do exactly the same with this. Never really started eating figs until I was a grown up, but I just love them. I think they're just so yummy, really, really yummy, and again packed full of vitamins, minerals, really important things that we need for our body, which I'm a big fan of. So I apologise if I keep going on and on about it. Just literally repeating this process. So again, just take the harder stalk off the fig, put it to one side, half a dry fig, quarter of a fresh fig, and roll them up. Now as these start to cook, you'll notice that some juice, especially with fresh figs, will start to come out. That's absolutely fine. In fact, it's good. So don't worry, you haven't overcooked or undercooked them. We'll go through the timings just before we finish, but you mustn't worry at all about any sort of fig essence coming out. That's a really good thing to do. We're going to decorate these up to put on our tapas platter for the finishing photos, just to give you some ideas of how they can be presented. And as you can see, we're only a few minutes in and I've already whizzed through the asparagus tapas nibble, and we've very nearly finished the fig nibble. Wow, some of these figs are quite chunky, that's good. Make sure they're all covered up and popped in the tray. A few more. Oh, a couple more, that's good. Get all these nicely done. Hopefully you're doing these with me. It was sort of the idea of doing these videos was to not bore you to death for 20 minutes, half an hour, but to actually do it together, which I hope you do. It's nice to know. It's lovely to hear so much lovely feedback from everyone while we've been on holiday and doing some research for our new series and getting over coughs and colds and bugs and other stuff. So thank you all for keeping in touch. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, so that's my last fig roll, as it were, done and there. And then the last thing we're going to do is our stuffed mushrooms. Really, you can have loads of fun with stuffed mushrooms, basically because they'll pretty much take anything and still hold their shape. They will go a little bit flatter once they've been in the oven, but not to worry at all. So the first thing I need you to do is take your mushroom, whether it be small or larger, and just take out the stalk. And the only reason why you take out the stalk is to give yourself a little bit more space to cram in loads of yummy cheese. So we'll get those on the go. Take out the stalk and any sort of fluffy bits on the bottom of the... Whoop. That was very manly, wasn't it? Whoop. There we go. Now, when we're stuffing these, you've got a variety of choices. I have gone for a 50p version because I can, and you can really have fun with this. Really, really have fun. I have got this one from the car that rhymes with Mazda, and like I said, it was really cheap. But this already comes with garlic and herbs in it, which saved me a huge job having to pre-prepare this particular dinner today. You can get a small mixing bowl. You can mix this cream cheese in with so many different things. If you want to put some soft goat's cheese in, go for it. If you want to, I don't know, put some mozzarella slice on top, go for it. But cheese just goes yummy scrummy well with any mushroom, so be encouraged to not be too stingy. Again, I've gone for the light version just because I'm trying to keep the fat a bit lower in my diet, but that is entirely up to you. If you want to use the full fat version, you go for it. As you can see, I'm not being particularly scientific, but I am trying to keep the cheese inside the mushroom rather than on the outside. But this is going so far so good. And if there's any left over, I shall be licking at the spoon, or somebody will in my household for sure. Right, all done. Now then, here we are. Why have I got some stuffing out? Because these are the ingredients of stuffing: wheat flour, iron, thiamine, acid, carbonate, and blah 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 blah, ammonium, blah blah blah. So basically, in summary, if you're not going to use breadcrumbs and you don't have access to breadcrumbs in your cupboard, I guarantee you're likely to have a 50p box of stuffing lying around in wait for Sunday lunch. So, in light of the fact that this wheat flour is also what our breadcrumbs would have been made out of, I'm going to nick some of this. And this is going to be our topping. It won't stay particularly crunchy, but it does give an amazing top flavour to our mushrooms. But be prepared, it will be a more softer stuffing-y type texture once they've baked. But there is a top tip I can give you before they go in the oven. Pat that down a little bit just so the top is nicely covered. Like that. If you want to garnish this with some dried herbs, you absolutely go for it. I'm going to run out of space, so I'm going to get another dish for those, but that's fine. But that's pretty much what you do. Fill your baking tray with everything because they all cook on the same temperature and all for around about the same time. Now, if, like me, you have a prehistoric oven, which doesn't have a fan, this will take between 20 minutes and 25 minutes. The mushrooms could take up to 30 minutes. I highly doubt it, but it can happen sometimes depending on what temperature I put it on. I've put the oven on a preheat of 200 degrees Celsius, and then literally you shove everything in the oven at the same time. Check after 20 minutes if the bacon's cooked through and the prosciutto ham has gone from soft to hard, and the mushrooms have sort of shrunk by a third. They're looking quite juicy. There's a bit of sort of fluid that's come out of them, and the stuffing looks nice and golden on the top. then you're pretty much done. If not, whack it back in for another 5 minutes, check again. If not, whack it back in for another 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be too scientific, but I promise you, once these are all done, they'll be super delicious. So the only thing I'm going to do, especially for the mushroom's sake, is just spray them with a bit of fry light. So if you don't have fry light, don't worry, it's not going to make much difference. It's just so to try and encourage the stuffing to be a bit crispier on the top. And that is going to be our intro and quick tapas tray for today. I'm going to try and do some more tapas throughout the series because it is a great entertaining dinner where you can have chunky bread with it and dips with it and stuff. But I'll make sure we put a photograph of the finished mini platter on our Facebook page. I hope you've enjoyed today. Thank you for joining us, and please send me your comments soon. Thank you.